Good evening and welcome. My name is Majini. I'm the Associate Dean of Education at the Grad School of Education and Psychology. We are honored to have you. The Center for Global Partnership and Learning at GSEP is led by Dr. Gabriella Miramontes, a visiting faculty of education at GSEP. The center offers programming to enrich and support our students and their communities and their commitments throughout their academic and personal journeys in preparing them for lives of purpose, service, and leadership. The center offers innovative learning opportunities dedicated to developing leaders who will serve as catalyst and inspiration for change. Our programs center around values that we espouse and value-based learning. They're singularly designed to leverage contemporary topics to enhance your skills and engage in discourse around emerging skill development and trends. Currently, we have partnered with a number of local and global organizations that share and are aligned with our values and commitments. Throughout several engagement channels, we provide opportunities for dissertation research through our Excellence and Innovation Project, scholarship, journal publication, and conference presentation through our Scholarship Without Border workshop, and a number of other certificate programs that support various communities. In alignment with our commitment to belonging at our university, and 3 of our commitments at the Graduate School of Education, namely elevating voices, raising our awareness, and celebrating all diversity. Today, I'm honored to present to you our celebration of International Women's Day, Raising All Voices for Justice and Equity Conference. Not in a very near past, this was merely a dream. We are very pleased that that dream has come to fruition. This would not have been possible without the leadership of Dr. Miramontes and our doctoral students and colleagues and doctoral students, Dr. Maria Brame, who heads our library, Mrs. Kim Kerr, Asiya Ghazi, Aida Jafari, and Mr. Robert Reyes, and their capable team that pulled this miracle event together for us. My colleagues and friends, thank you. Well done. Thank you for fulfilling this dream for us. Yet no dream comes possible without the great leader behind the scenes that removes obstacles, breaks barriers, and paves the way. For us, that great leader is our dean, Dr. Helen Easterling Williams. Dean Williams, my mentor and friend, has been the Dean of Grad School of Education and Psychology since 2014. During her tenure, the graduate school has gone through tremendous transformation and growth, whether it is historically high for this graduate school enrollments in both education and psychology, innovative programs using hybrid, simultaneous attendance and other models, the first PhD program in the history of Pepperdine University, national rankings and academic excellence, as well as the soon coming, the Diverse Scholar postdoctoral program. She has led us to much progress and much change, more than anything else, truly transforming and touching every one of our students' lives. She is an ordained elder in the African Methodist Episcopalian Church, serving presently at the First AME Church in Los Angeles, California. Please join me in welcoming GSEP Dean and Executive Woman of the Year by Los Angeles Business Journal in 2019, Reverend Dr. Helen Easterling Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is indeed a privilege and honor to be with you. Can you hear me clearly? I want to be sure you can. Super, thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you to the esteemed Dr. Farzin Majidi, Dr. Gabriella Miramontes, soon to be Doctors Kim Kerr, Robert Reyes is already there. I am ecstatic over the collaboration that has occurred that makes this day possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you for yet another star in your crown. I've been asked to share a few words with you relative to raising all voices for equity and justice. And in doing so, I thought I would share with you that in September of every year, the GSEP family typically engages in the launch. Now, the launch is an all-day professional development, family reunion sort of experience held at the beginning of the academic year to ensure that we are all on the same page, that we are all operating with the same information, the same understanding, the same organizational purpose. The mantra coming out of this September's launch was, "Together we rise. Together we rise." The same holds true for this distinguished gathering today, representing and uplifting the contributions of countless, selfless, enduring, powerful, and inspiring women in our world. It is when we stand together, unified in purpose, unified in strategy, and yes, unified in faith, that we can accomplish immeasurable goals and demonstrate to ourselves and to others that truly together we rise. But this presentation is not meant to merely highlight and celebrate women, the ones who bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never ever let you forget that you are a man or a significant other. The ones whose hands rock the cradle and rule the world. Yes, I bow to my sisters, past and present, who excel at dominating the chambers of Congress, the halls of justice, the seats of parliament, the crucible of medicine, the citadel of armed forces, the sports arenas, the bastions of education, and corporate fiefdoms. I humbly bow to them. They deserve to be honored and lifted in prayer. Lord knows they need to be lifted in prayer for the tenacity, the strength, the determination, and the fortitude to tackle the most pressing issues of life from lofty places that are often unwelcoming and sometimes downright dangerous spaces. I thank God for their service. Truly, together we rise. This presentation and all of the activities centered around this gathering is also designed to honor and stand in the gap for our other sisters, the ones who carry in their wombs the genetic codes of enslaved ancestors, and who with dogged determination and intense desperation teach the product of their stolen innocence to strive for true freedom, something they themselves will never see. A freedom where they will not be subject to the whims of self-serving, greedy predators whose actions go unchecked for generations and whose claims of reverse victimization are shamefully given even an iota, a modicum of credibility. We come standing in the gaps for our sisters because together we rise. We come today to honor and uplift our sisters who dare to hope, who dare to dream after they escaped from war-torn countries, famine-stricken countries, genocide-ravaged countries, and found their way into crowded refugee camps that offered a glimmer of hope, only to have their babies stripped from their breasts and their children torn from their arms. We say to our sisters, together we rise. Yes, yes, we come today to honor and stand in the gap for our sisters who sweat in sweatshops in Shanghai, massage parlors in Kuala Lumpur, homeless encampments in London's Mayfair district, and God forbid that we should forget our sisters in crack houses from Boston to Baltimore, to Berkeley, to Bombay. We cannot afford to turn our heads as if we do not see their struggle, as if they do not exist. For most of them face these atrocities due to no effort of their own, but are unwitting victims of unjust systems of power, unjust systems of power, unjust systems of power, replete with policies and practices that negatively affect them and their families, both directly and indirectly. Somebody hear me. We must not stand idly by and watch the vicissitudes of poverty replace their hopes and dreams with an untimely death, lest we forget. Our lives are inextricably linked, and the ravages of greed know no boundaries. As the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King would say, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We must stand united and raise our voices for equity and justice for all. Yes, together we rise. You see, as we tackle this, we must look at the numbers. We can talk all day, but some people are only moved by numbers. And when we look at the numbers, we find that the UN has reported that over 14% of the world's population is illiterate. And imagine, 2/3 of them are women. Michelle Obama shared that 62 million girls worldwide are not getting opportunities that we enjoy here today due to poverty, lack of educational opportunities, and limiting cultural attitudes that suppress and oppress women and girls. The United Nations reports that over 200 million, get this, don't miss this, over 200 million girls worldwide are victims of female genital mutilation, and many are forced to be childhood brides. Human trafficking is all over our world, the new form of slavery that we cannot turn our faces from. We must raise our voices for equity and justice. Yes, we must, for our girls and our sisters. I will not leave you with platitudes only. I operate with strategy. We need strategies to address these issues. And so here are a few that I've chosen to share with you today. First and foremost, we must firmly plant a flag on the word together. Yes, many hands make light work. It is when the sorors, the sisters, the sorors of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the sorors of Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated joined with the women's suffrage movement in the United States, that the women finally won the right to vote. Yes, the Holy Bible teaches us that one can chase 1,000, but two can chase 10,000. Yes, there is unity in power. We must work together. We must stand together. Next, the next strategy is that we must avoid a patriarchal spirit. Avoid a patriarchal spirit. As we reach out to help our sisters, we must not think too highly of ourselves. We must not create a sense that we are better than them, wittingly or unwittingly. When I look at people who do this and get notoriety from it, I am reminded about the evangelist Billy Graham. Billy Graham asked Prime Minister Golda Meir about her success as a foreign minister in developing aid programs in Africa. He was amazed at how she got things done. She responded by simply saying, you know, she was very direct. She didn't mince words, and she simply said to him, "We go there to teach, not to preach." We must avoid the propensity to be elitists. People know when you're speaking down to them. Together, we rise. Thirdly, we must be strategic. You know, strategies work for me. I share them with you. We must be strategic. Whether we choose to address a challenge internally or externally, we must always remember that the goal is to dismantle systems and processes. Dismantle systems and processes. Systems and processes that hold our sisters and their families hostage. We must stay focused. Do not be distracted. Keep our eyes on the prize. Be strategic. Fourthly, we must always follow the money, and we must follow it with a vengeance. My father-in-law said to me when I was studying leadership, he said, "Baby, I can give you the key to all the economic problems of the world." He said, "Follow the money." Systems and processes are always tied to money, but be prepared, because someone is benefiting from the structure in place, and they will not give it up easily. Power concedes nothing without a struggle. So go for the jugular. Follow the money. It will lead you to the answer. And then when we have the answer together, we can rise. The fifth strategy is that as we raise our voices for equity and justice, we must remember to celebrate. Celebrate the victories, large or small. Celebrate. At the end of the academic year, the Dean's Office issues an annual report that lists many of our accomplishments for the year. It starts from the launch in September and And we list all of our accomplishments. Many reasons to celebrate emerge, large and small. We have a wonderful time because we have reason to laugh, reason to smile, reason to lift our spirits. Laughter makes good medicine. It makes us merry. It changes the endorphins in our brain. It causes us to sing the songs of Zion, to shout with a voice of triumph, to dance, dance, dance like we've never danced before. We must celebrate. It's good for the spirit. In conclusion, I am reminded that we are the hands and the feet of Christ. Like him, we are called to heal the brokenhearted and bind up their wounds. That's Psalms 147, verse 3. Heal the brokenhearted and bind up their wounds. In doing so, we can raise our voices for equity and justice and truly be heard. I am reminded of the Honorable Mam Toukaleur Mbaye, ambassador from Senegal to Los Angeles. She shared with me just today that she was troubled that human trafficking in Senegal is a major problem. Huge in that country. Human trafficking just seems to take over. And she was very much concerned about the girls. As it stands, in one major school, they don't have many like ours, but in one of their major schools, it was determined that girls would leave the school and within a few yards of the school, they would be abducted and forced into human trafficking. Mom, recognizing that we are the hands and feet of Christ, Mom pulled together her colleagues in the embassy. She contacted the United Nations and she elicited the support of the Church of Jesus Christ for Latter-day Saints. And they built a wall, a tall cinder block wall around the school. They put a roof on the top of the school. And I tell you, that collaboration, within 2 years, human trafficking in that area has been reduced 60%. Collaboration. We are the hands and the feet of Christ. We must build walls that prevent these social, political, and cultural ills of our world from ensnaring our sisters and our girls and leading them into a life of ill repute. We must raise our voices for equity and justice. We must join forces across color lines, transcending social, political, and cultural barriers. And we must do the work of Christ. And this we can do if we collaborate together, linking our resources and our spirits and our wills together. It can be done. I can do it. You can do it. We can do it. But we can do it better together. Thank you for your time and your attention and your will to raise the voices for equity and justice. God bless you.
Kim
Kim?
Williams, what an honor. Thank you so very much. I still have goosebumps just hearing the togetherness that started it all, from the right to vote, the human trafficking considerations around the globe that are still a conversation even today, right? And you're listening.
Mhm.
I do have one question that has come from the audience, and I just want to raise this for you, being that you are such an example for us of women in leadership, and we're certainly going to talk about women in leadership just a bit. And it comes from a research context, and that is that challenges that women, to their success have experienced in underrepresented groups. Many have talked about an impassable glass ceiling at the top. Some have talked about a pipeline that's somehow clogged with few opportunities. Others have talked about leaky pipelines where women leave the workforce early. And many others have talked about the labyrinth where barriers continue to present themselves. If you had to just sum up for us in a short bit of advice, what you might tell your younger self, what you might say to your mid-career self, and what you might say to your self as you look ahead, how would you advise us to traverse along that roadway to success as women rising in leadership?
Thank you for the question. It is a very comprehensive question, and I will try to be brief. You know, that isn't my best quality, but I will try. I will share with you that as I look back on my career and I speak to myself, and this I have been doing just this past week, I will say to each and every one of you, male and female, whatever you call yourself, I would ask you to look in the mirror and say, number one, I am enough. I spent way too many days, way too many months, way too many years struggling within myself, trying to convince myself that I was enough. And as I look back on my career, I realized that I was indeed enough. In fact, I was more than enough. And how much would I have accomplished if I believed in myself? I am not an imposter. You are not an imposter. You are where you are because you have earned the right to be there. The gifts and the talents that God has given you are in you for this very moment. The ceilings are broken. The leaky pipeline, forget it. We clog them up. We must believe in ourselves and go for it. How much more would I have accomplished had I not been held back by the thoughts planted in my mind that I was not enough? You are enough. Do not take no for an answer. Push even further. I guarantee if you push, something will happen. If you give in, nothing happens. Push. To my younger self, to my baby self, my mid-career self, myself now, push. Don't stop. I realize now I am more powerful than I ever was. Don't stop. Big secret, if you push, the door will open. Amen.
So Dean Williams, you again bring me to chills. I remember sending you an email on a Sunday thinking that it was too late to even get into this program. And that Sunday email would lead to that pushed open door that Dr. Majini would welcome me into and into this program. And so thank you so very much for that initial push, and certainly every push since. We are very honored to have you here tonight and look forward to you staying with us in case there's some questions that would come up. And we'll certainly welcome you into the dialogue. So I want to just again say welcome to our audience. I know that Dr. Fazine has done that already. Dr. Majini has opened us up to hear about what the center for Global Partnerships and Learning offers, and Dr. Miramontes' leadership there, and certainly our team. But we want to hear from our audience. We want to connect with you after such a riveting message. We want to learn a little bit about you, maybe your experiences that you've had with International Women's Day events today or in the past, what you know about the center, and as well, what we might look forward to in terms of having you engaged in the space with us. So if you would just take a hold of those poll questions and engage there, and just kind of scroll through the poll, and I will prepare to transition us. Just a moment here, I will just highlight that this panel, you can't even imagine that the challenge of putting together, as Dr. Majini has already said, the miracle of such an event. You know what it takes to put together an event, and then imagine to do it virtually. And add on top of that, the Texas shut down all its power right in the middle of planning. But this team pulled together, and it was only because of the friends that are with us today. Janet Pope from Capgemini, Colleen Rockefort from BASF, JaTaune Bosby from the American Civil Liberties Union, and my newest friend, Charlotte Westerhaus-Renfrow from Indiana University. What can I say about being one phone call away and making yourselves available to share in this occasion and make this memorable for all the students at GSEP, and certainly our friends that have joined us today. So I just salute the panelists. Some of you have done 2 or 3 International Women's Day events today already, and I'm just grateful that you would spend this evening with us. And Dr. Miramontes, what can be said about the way you make voices be heard? Student voices heard everywhere. And I know this is your personal commitment. Even as we're continuing to engage in the polls, if I just can ground us a little bit on the conversation that we will have this evening, and then give the opportunity for our panelists to give us their perspective, their hearts, what would cause them to be committed to this work. So tonight, we're focused on the International Women's Day agenda. Their campaign for this year is relative to Choose to Challenge, and that's an opportunity available to every one of us. We can all raise our hand and say, I am committed to, and this is what I will be held accountable to, and deliver upon that in every single circle that we influence. My personal Choose to Challenge, every group that I influence, every single group that I influence will be influenced with intentional inclusion. No more opportunities to leave people on the sidelines. And those who work with me in groups at GSEP know this is real for me, because I have been voiceless too many times and off on the sidelines. So my Choose to Challenge statement is out there in my workplace. It's here in the academic space. It will follow me in the communities and in my personal life. Each one of our panelists has also brought with them their Choose to Challenge statement, and we'll prepare to hear from them in just a moment as we think about 4 dimensions of the conversation we will have. So raising the voices of women. What has International Women's Day done for us to make that possible, even starting here in the United States? Raising the voice of women in leadership. As our dean has demonstrated for us, belief in self is the beginning, but there's a lot more that goes in that secret sauce. Raising the voice of allies, both male and female. Who was holding your ladder and gave you the push to continue going on and open some doors for you? And then raising the voice of others. Certainly in a post George Floyd world, we can't deny that the voice of others is sometimes left to the side, and we can acknowledge that here tonight. And so I want to just pass to our panelists, and maybe we'll go in alphabetical order. JaTaune, Dr. Gabby, Janet, Colleen, Charlotte, if you would just be gracious to share with us a little bit about your background, and then as well, share with us why your Choose to Challenge statement is important to you. I'll pass to you, JaTaune.
Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you all for welcoming me into this space. Dr. Easterling, thank you so very much for your powerful words. My name is Jaton Bosby. I'm the Executive Director of the ACLU of Alabama, which is part of the 54 affiliate-wide network of the National American Civil Liberties Union. I bring you greetings from the birthplace of civil rights, Montgomery, Alabama, this evening. And the work that I do is really steeped in advancing civil rights and civil liberties through voting rights, reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, criminal legal reform. And this work that we are focused on is steeped in the state legislatures, the community, and in the courtroom. And my choose to challenge statement today is I commit to uplifting and making space for others equitably, intentionally, with empathy and compassion, while ensuring I am centering the voices and experiences of those I advocate for and ally with. And that really is steeped in my value system and the work that I do, and understanding the space that we are in as we work to advocate for others and understand the importance of allyship across lines and within the space of intersectionality.
Thank you, JaTaune. Dr. Gabby?
So I am Dr. Gabby. I've been affiliated with Pepperdine University for the past 20 years. I came here as a student a really long time ago, graduated, got my doctorate here, and came back to teach because I believe in what we do and what we stand for and who we are. I am currently a visiting professor. I head the Center for Global Partnerships and Learning, as well as our Excellence and Innovation Project. And the reason I do what I do is because I believe in advancing, I believe in elevating the voice of those around me, those that have been marginalized and minimized. I think that having a voice, having a seat at the table is important, but elevating those voices, making sure that we're all heard is that much more important. And so that's why I'm here today. And that's why we do what we do.
Thank you, Dr. Gabby. Janet?
Hi, yes, Janet Pope here. I am the Corporate Social Responsibility Director at Capgemini. Capgemini is a 270,000 employee global professional services organization with a lot of focus on IT delivery and some strategic emphasis on how we deliver those IT solutions for our clients across the world. I look after what we do in order to support diversity, equity, and inclusion, environmental sustainability, and how we volunteer leveraging our own skills. So skills-based volunteering is what a lot of people refer to that now. We have about 16,000 employees in the US and Canada, and I'm focused specifically in our North America geography. My choose to challenge statement is really focused on making sure we're challenging what I would say or call traditional gender roles. So I think sometimes we've boxed ourselves into these ideas or notions that are completely constructed by ourselves, by societal norms around what women should be doing at work and at home and what men should be doing at work and at home. And so I would like us to continue to just challenge those constructs. Where do we get those from? Caste is actually an amazing book challenging all those constructs around race and caste systems, and really caused me to pause and think, wow, we created all this. There's no reason to necessarily have these constructs. So I'll continue to challenge those in the workplace and make sure that we think about that when we do things like put women or box women into roles where they're doing more administrative tasks or taking notes in meetings. The same thing when we look at performance reviews, and I can only speak to the corporate world, but sometimes women will get labeled as bossy or aggressive for showing the exact same leadership traits that men would show. So I just want to continue to challenge those roles, those bias and stereotypes as it relates to gender. And not only today, that's the other thing. We do a great job of caring a lot about these topics on International Women's Day. I like to choose to challenge to make sure we're doing this the other 364 days of the year as well.
Wonderful, Janet. Thank you. Colleen? You're on mute.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm Colleen Rockafort. I'm currently the Global Technical Key Account Manager, as well as Strategic Customer Network Leader for one of our top customers for BASF Corporation. Care Chemicals division. I have 40 plus years of experience in R&D mostly, and also commercial experience. And I got my start with a bachelor's in chemistry and also a master's in cosmetic science. I'm the founder and strategic advisor for the Women in BSF virtual chapter. It's an employee resource group, one of the several that we have. And I'm also an advocate of women's and family concerns most of my career. And since 1992, I've traveled to approximately 27 countries on behalf of my companies, delivering technical training and presentations, global customers, and also at scientific conferences. And I pride myself on cultural familiarization to acclimate to the host country preferences. So prior to going to any countries, I try to find what the cultural issues are, business protocols, personal protocols, things like that, learning hello, goodbye, and thank you. It goes a long way. I choose to challenge to call out gender bias and also inequities, and also celebrate women's achievements. I heard that earlier, and I really feel that it's important to do that. And also to create an inclusive world. I think that BSF has done quite a bit in this area. I also continue to educate myself, understand what the issues are, listen, try to empathize with the colleagues, and also engage. So one of my key things is I've worked remotely for 15 years, and a lot of the activities were face-to-face. So there were a lot of great things going on, but I really couldn't participate. So prior to the pandemic, we basically started this virtual chapter to be more inclusive, basically hear the pains and the issues people were having, and develop programs to address those. I think the other thing is also the discrimination against, women who, for caretakers and also families. So for me, that's a big issue as well.
Thank you, Colleen. And Dr. Charlotte.
Hi, Kim. And Charlotte's fine. Okay. My name is Charlotte Westerhaus-Renfrow. I am an assistant clinical professor at Indiana University. I teach in the School of Business, and we have one school, 2 locations, Bloomington, Indiana, and I teach in Indianapolis, Indiana. I was recently as a social faculty chair. So starting January 1, I became the faculty chair of our undergraduate department, which is our largest component of the business school, where my specialization is team dynamics, leadership, and negotiations. I also it's been a great year last year. I know in the midst of COVID, but a lot of good things, and there's some tragedies, but good things happen. I was named one of the 25 Indiana University bicentennial professors for my commitment to the community within the state of Indiana. And 3 weeks ago, I received the bicentennial medal for 200 years recognition for also service to students and service to Indiana. Enough about me. I'm going to talk about my Choose a Challenge because I want to hear from the panelists. I was talking to Kim about this, and I was given this very elaborate type of statement, but I choose to challenge hate. And I should use that with my favorite biblical passage, and that's love thy neighbor. And it doesn't mean the neighbor that looks like you, the neighbor that agrees with you, the neighbor that sometimes advocates for you, or maybe even loves you back. And that's probably how I've made it through some of the more difficult challenges I've had in my life, and helps me with my resilience and grit. And so I choose to challenge hate, going back to the civil rights movement. I am a baby of that movement, and follow that peace movement and the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and so many Black women before him that supported that movement with strategy, with resilience, with grit, and a lack of violence. And using Michelle Obama's words, when they go low, I choose to challenge lowness by going high. So that's going to be my kudo for this year. And I'm very, very anxious to hear from all the other panelists and so many of you in the audience. And by the way, I used to work a long time ago in Southern California at Pomona College, this close to attending Pepperdine in law school, but chose to go back to the Midwest. So thank you, Dean, for your outstanding, eloquent, and moving opening. And Kim, let's get this ball rolling. Let's rock and roll.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. And all the panelists. I just want a presence for us while we're together tonight. Really, the conversation has been handled well by our dean and everybody's voice thus far. I can hear you in the chat. I just want to really set the purpose, who our partners are, our participation, the premise, and the platform that we're creating. So Raising All Voices for Equity and Justice is an event that truly brings together a diverse group of women in leadership that spans social advocacy, higher education, we've heard from consulting, and even chemical manufacturing. So lots of sectors represented here. And we're asking these ladies to share with us their perspectives on how they're leveraging their influence internally and externally to continue to move the needle in diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations globally. Our dean took us to a global look on that, and we certainly want to keep an eye on that global look. But at the same time, where and how can we make a difference in our spheres of influence that are closer to home, maybe? Influence that touch women and people of color and those of lower social economic status that are shoulder to shoulder with us. So we have 4 main topics that we're going to cover today. Highlighted them here, again, raising the voices of women, raising the voice of women in leadership, and raising the voice of allies, and raising the voice of others. We're going to take this flow in a conversation pattern. So we will, move the questions around. The moderators are here to help us. So use your Zoom tools, raise hands, put questions in the Q&A. Rob, Dr. Maria, and Asia are on hand to help us continue with that. If you have any technology challenges, of course, get in touch with us or just try to get back in. We'll admit you as soon as we can. So just to highlight the International Women's Day platform, can't possibly get past that March 8th is a global day. It's a day that we celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. It's a call to action, as our Choose to Challenge statements can hold us accountable. And it started in North America, so first with a march in New York, and then moving over to actually becoming an official day on 1911 on March 8th. And so every year we have the opportunity to showcase women everywhere. And so if you want to know more about her story, I invite you to go check out the International Women's Day official site. And just to give a little bit about myself, I've spent 20 years working in agencies, government agencies, and corporations and consulting. I've actually served as the Chief Administrative Officer of 2 of the largest African-American ministries in North America, with 20,000 members between them. I've also served in some of the larger denominations with 25,000 delegates at their annual meetings. I have served as a change leader and a program manager in many spaces. I lead projects that are global in nature, facilitating team conversations and organizational and leader effectiveness. And I'm currently pursuing my scholar practitioner degree here at Pepperdine. And I'm doing so because I want to continue to elevate the conversation around organizational leadership, organizational development. And so I want to just turn, if I can, first to Jaton Bosby. We have a very interesting past and an even more interesting present. And that is that, Jaton and I both shared space at Northwestern. And so Jaton, can you share a bit about how you laid the foundation just to shift the trajectory of your career and earn your own seat at the table from our humble beginnings at Northwestern in the Masters of Science in Communications program?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Kim. I really started off, I would say, with not a super clear direction. Our particular program really focuses many folks that go through the Masters of Science in Communication program, really focused on organizational leadership. They are really pipeline into the consulting or the agency space. And I actually shifted and went to that space not long after graduating from my master's program. That opportunity did not work for me. And I was with a global PR agency. And from that experience, what I really learned was understanding what worked for me, less about exactly where I wanted to be, but what I knew would serve me. Things that I had to understand and kind of contextualize or build a toolkit, if you will, of where I could thrive and where I could be supported. That really shifted me into the nonprofit space, where I was able to work in the North Lawndale community in Chicago, and then was offered an opportunity to return to Alabama, where I did go to college. I grew up in the Chicagoland area, but went to school in Alabama, learned a great deal there, and was able to return for an opportunity at the ACLU. That opportunity really was able to set a foundation for me in my formative years. My predecessors, a white woman, a white male, really helped me in various ways. One gave me an opportunity and one gave me sponsorship. And so while that experience was different, it really helped me get a grounding of where I could thrive. And being connected to a space, particularly Montgomery, Alabama, that has such a rich history of racial justice, of social justice, and understanding that that was a necessity to my core and what I felt was needed for me to grow and for me to expand, ideally, particularly in this space of socio-political change. And so my trajectory, while, if you will, non-traditional, was one that I felt was very valuable. In the time that I've been with the ACLU of Alabama in the last 5.5 years, in August, I was selected to serve as its first Black woman executive director, the first woman of color, the first person of color to serve in this role in this state. My organization is a statewide organization. We have grown exponentially, and to be in a position to understand the level of strategic direction and focus really took time. It took root work, and it really took the guidance, I believe, of predecessors that believed in me and that poured into me.
Wonderful. Thank you, JaTaune. Thanks for showing us how to make your own way. And Colleen, I know you have a make your own way story of your own. We've talked about your breakthroughs in STEM for women in STEM, and certainly 40 years ago, the playing field looked very different. Tell us
Very different.
how you got driven in the world of chemistry and what drives you today to continue breaking through.
Well, first of all, I just love chemistry, and I think the key, you're right, I graduated high school in the 1970s, and basically my guidance counselor told me women are not chemists, find another career. So my parents went up to school and said, if she wants to be a chemist, she's going to be a chemist. And they changed my guidance counselor to a woman, and she actually helped me to apply for different schools, and I did continue to move forward. But I think the key for me was just, not giving up. You have your dream and you want to continue. But I think also, that my chemistry teacher chemistry just clicked with me. People are like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? But I just enjoy it. Most of my background has been in formulating products for hair. So I've done it globally around the world. So just understanding the hair needs and, making products for the different hair types. But really the key for me was just the encouragement along the way of just different people, not accepting no, just knocking on the door and pushing the door, and just maybe you couldn't get there as fast as you wanted to. You had to work hard to get there, but basically working through that. I also feel, my career was not really a straight path. Different things came across my career, and basically just talking with different people, having, specific allies along the way, and just having that advice really helped me to formalize. But really there was a strategy around what I wanted to do. I kind of knew what I wanted to do and move forward. And there's different gratifications, at least I worked on both the customer side of the business, making products, coming from a product idea until I saw that product that I made on the shelf, to on the raw material supplier side, which is what I am in now, where everybody gets to use my raw materials. But the key there is I'm developing a brand new chemistry. I'm getting patents. I'm being able to talk about it, write articles. So there's different gratifications as you go through your career, and just different things. But to be honest, I could not do what I do without the support of my family, especially my husband, who has supported me in my career throughout my life. So definitely an uphill battle, but I feel that, looking back, I don't think I would do anything different. I think that you have to fight, you have to fight for what you want, and you have to ask. I think one of the things I heard earlier, I've asked for things I've never asked for before, and now doors are opening, right? So I think sometimes you think, like you said, you're not good enough. Well, I shouldn't apply for that. No, just go for it. I think that's the key.
Fabulous, thank you. And Charlotte, I know we had an interesting conversation around women being bilingual. Can you share a little bit for us on how you had to use more than one language to navigate, the spaces of law and the academy, and certainly community where you've made a difference to get your seat?
And I would say by being bilingual, I meant actually bicultural as far as
Cultural, sorry, okay.
Oh, no, I'm at a loss. Anyone who's like me who can't speak more than one language, we're at a loss. Those who speak two or more, they are at an advantage, I tell my students. And so I bow down to that. But yes, the cultures. And I'm gonna change it just a little bit because I saw the question and this, it was like a seat at the table. And I will say this for me, I would advise men and women that look, if you know, and I go back to what your dean said, being strategic, sometimes you're sitting at the little table, the kiddie table. But if I'm gonna sit at that table, I'm gonna be the best kid possible. You know, and I'm always looking for the next table. So sometimes when you get at the kiddie table, you get down, you get angry, you get, oh, I don't deserve, oh no, I'm kicking this table. I'm gonna be the best one at that table. And I got my eye on the next table and I wanna learn the skill sets to be at that table and to do extremely well. And then you get at that table, you say, well, I've learned from everybody at that table. Maybe you all want to stay at this table, but what's the next table for me? And so I think that's what I mean by also being bicultural, is understanding the culture of law, the culture of education. So in law, I'm going to be very competitive. I used to be a civil litigator, but that doesn't work in higher ed. You have to be very collaborative. And what I love about women is we know how to switch roles very, very well. We're light on our feet. And that, for me, that has helped me as far as having a seat at the table, is knowing that there are different tables with different servings, with different meals. And you're gonna have to be able to understand those culture in a large organization, whether it be in higher ed. The table and the business school is different than the table that might be, for instance, in the School of Education, where I have a master's. Yet, and within a university, you have you have to all put that together where everybody has the larger table. So I try to teach women on how to be bicultural in a corporate educational setting, understanding the various cultures and not being worried that you may not have the best seat, but you should be worried if you don't know who is sitting in the best seat and where the best seat is and how they got into the best seat. I've had so many women ask me, well, I like to be this. Maybe they like to be your dean. And I say, for instance, oh, you want to be a dean. So what are your aspirations? Well, I aspire to get my bachelor's degree and work in retail. Well, you're not going to be a dean of the School of Education. So I asked them to go follow her roadmap. She has a wonderful career if you want to be a fantastic dean. What did she do? What tables did she sit at? And she got really, really too big for that table. And then how she gets to the next table and how she gets to the next table. And follow that roadmap of all the successes we have of women like us, women of color, and even men, right? And try to follow that path. And while you're following that path, stay motivated, have a vision. I always tell folks, if you want to be a dean, a university president, or whatever it is, see yourself sitting in that office with that nameplate with your name on it. That parking space where you pull your car in. When you're on the podium giving out those diplomas, whatever it is the job you have. So you do have to see it and you have to feel it. And then as you are turning, I used to run track, if you're going around that last curve of the 400, it hurts. Don't focus on the pain. Focus on the gain and focus on the end. And you'll have plenty of time to catch your breath and say, boy, that hurt. But as you're going towards your goal, don't focus, and it will hurt and there will be pain, but focus on the goal and follow the footsteps of so many brilliant, brilliant men and women out there that can inspire you. And now I have a new one, and I'll tell you, I won't give you my age, but I have grandkids, but I'll tell you this. Now I have a new vice president of the United States. How did she get there? Just study and follow and be inspired and make sure you understand there's different tables at different areas. When you get that table, find the next table and find the next seat and find a clear path and find role models and a map on how to get there.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. And Janet, how did listening help you get your career in tech consulting and your new seat as Corporate Social Responsibility Director for North America?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Kim. I'll probably back into how listening helped me. So just to set a little context. So I'm originally from South Carolina. I went to Clemson University and got a bachelor's of science in computer engineering. After computer engineering, I'll be very transparent with this audience. I went to Duke University and got a master's in engineering management, and specifically because at that time, now Clemson's this big football school that's sort of well known, but at that time I really felt like nobody's heard of Clemson University. You need to go to a school that people have heard of and, you know, be able to put that on your resume and try to open some doors. So I quite literally had never heard of consulting when I got to Duke University. I only learned about consulting as a career because we had professors who were ex-McKinsey consultants and talked about consulting. And then we had networking events that were provided through our career center at Duke, where they would have different consulting companies come and sort of pitch what are the different things that consultants do, why you might like a career in consulting. And I was, I don't know, 20 something years old when I first learned that consulting could be a career for me, because of the pretty suburban town I was in South Carolina. People were lawyers, they were great educators, they were you know, doctors, but I didn't know anyone who was a consultant. I know people who worked at Savannah Riverside. Now you're getting closer to where I'm from, maybe. But I didn't, and they were engineers and that sort of thing, but I didn't know anyone who was in consulting. So having those conversations, networking, really asking questions about what does a career in consulting look like? This is why I encourage people, especially anyone listening to this panel. I'm sure we have some fascinating careers represented here. How are you partnering with people who are, you know, teachers, educators for middle school students, to just make sure they're aware of the careers of people who have diverse backgrounds and the potential things that we can do. So I'm always happy to go talk to young people about consulting and how they can get involved. One of the great partnerships that I love from Capgemini is actually with Junior Achievement, and it might actually be too late. They're juniors in high school, but we talk to them about consulting and how they can get into careers in consulting. I think this is really, really important work, and I encourage others to find their friends with students in middle school and figure out how you can get in their career day panels. In terms of how that transitioned into a director of corporate social responsibility, people ask me that all the time. Sometimes I'm not even really sure, right? Like, what is a computer engineer doing being a director of corporate social responsibility? The short answer is, and this has come up on the panel already, the way that I would articulate it, and I love the way that Dean Williams talked about it, but I'd say it as closed mouths don't get fed. Right? So I decided one day that I wanted to do something different in my career. This is also a great thing about consulting. You sort of, it's just built in based on the way that we work with projects and different clients. Every year, 2 years, 6 months, depending on what's going on, you may be doing something very, very different. And so I'd gotten to a point in my career where I felt like it was time for me to try and do something very, very different. Went to my mentor, went to my people manager at the time and said, hey, I'd love to try something else. Not quite sure what it would be yet, but I'd like your support in helping me figure out this new role. Based on that, and I am a true believer of, you know, if you don't push on the door at the right time, you could miss your window of opportunity. Quite frankly, the HR director, or it was actually a vice president, that promoted me to the role that I'm in today, left our organization 3 months after she put me in that position. So had I taken too long or sort of, I don't know if I want to try, or not had those conversations, I would have missed that window. Now, if this was the role that I was supposed to have, maybe it would have come around again, but I certainly would have missed that first opportunity based on just the fact that that person had moved on from the organization. So I'd say closed mouths don't get fed. Make sure you network and take those opportunities and reach back to mentor others, enable them to network. And then the last thing I'll say, just because it's International Women's Day, and I know some women, some of us can get ourselves in trouble over this one, you can't say yes to everything. You have to really be intentional, and no is fine, right? If you've thought about it, if you are supporting all the things you can do, in order to truly do your best work and lead on the things that really need your dedicated focus and attention, your experience, your skill set, you will absolutely have to say no to something. You will get to pick what that is, right? Hopefully you're saying right to the right things in your work-life balance. hopefully you're saying yes to the right things that will help lead you to on the leadership path of, the next stage of your career, but you won't be able to say yes to everything, and being very strategic and figuring out how you say no to the things that you need to say no to is very important for women.
Fabulous. Thank you so very much for laying that groundwork, each of our panelists. It's going to be so hard to hit all of these topics. So now I'm going to popcorn around the room if I can. And Dr. Gabby, I'd like to just grab two things from you in this space. So certainly your career, you've already laid the path for us on how you made your way through Pepperdine and even in some other spaces. But can you bridge the gap for us over to how mentors and allies helped you do that, even in the Pepperdine space, maybe?
Absolutely. So I actually have a non-traditional background. I, am Latina. I didn't have the role models growing up that a lot of people are privileged and blessed with having. So for me, higher ed, well, was something that I knew I wanted to achieve. It wasn't, post bachelor's degree was unheard of for me. Although I did have a seed planted somewhere in the back of my mind that I wanted a doctorate. Don't know why, don't know how, wasn't even sure what that entailed. And then, so I went to a community college. I was there, took a detour in life, got married, and then ended up at Pepperdine at the business school doing a bachelor completion program. And I had this one faculty who challenged me to think beyond who I was. I was very quiet, very silent, didn't have a voice per se. And shortly thereafter, I got hired at Pepperdine, and he introduced me to the faculty and staff. I was still in the undergrad program. And he said, oh, and by the way, she's already agreed to start the doctoral program. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, that's pressure, because I can't let him down. He was on this pedestal for me, and he still is to some degree, although I've managed to knock a few blocks down. He's more of a colleague and a friend now, as opposed to back then, he was this, bigger than life person for me. And over the years, thanks to him, I found my voice, and I owe him so much. And he's actually here today. And because of him, one of the things I learned was I don't just push, but I pull. I don't just open doors for myself, but I try to pull people with me. And so for me, that was really important. So this person, Dr. Majini, is my mentor and my sponsor and my friend. Because of him, he modeled the behavior. And so I've worked in nonprofit sector, I've worked in higher ed, and my goal is always to elevate voices. My goal is always to elevate people. I know that when someone comes to me and says, I'm thinking of grad school, it's like, oh, no, let's sit down, let's have the conversation. How can we get you there? How can I support you through this process? I have a colleague who's in her doctoral program, and she's like, can I reach out to you for help? I'm like, sit down, let's have a conversation. How can I support you? How can I help? Because that was my experience. That's what I lived through. And I think that is so powerful, because it's a give and a take and a give.
Fabulous. Thank you, Dr. Gabby. And it would be difficult for me to leave Dr. Majini out of the conversation. Dr. Majini, I share Dr. Gabby's story, and that you certainly helped me find my voice with less than 48 hours to complete an application to be here, even for this open door. And so I just want to ask you the question, as a male ally, male mentor, what are some of the best practices that you share with women about how best to leverage allies, especially male ones, and fulfilling their career aspirations?
Thank you. Accolade like this is not something you earn. It speaks a lot more to the generosity of the speaker than anything I could have done. So for that, I'm humbly grateful. I watched the movie when I first come to the United States. It was a stupid movie. And I remember one scene from it, a bunch of guys in a convertible on a windy road, and police pulls them over, and they were all drunk except the driver who was sober, but was blind. And, and I remember from that discussion a word about, oh, I may be blind, but if you could only see what I hear, I'll go, oh, that's pretty cool. And, you know, and then that stayed with me. So I have tried to teach myself to see in everybody else what God has put in that they may not be looking at, or, you know, there are filters and curtains and all sorts of things that gets in the way of it. So when somebody says, I want to get a doctorate, I figure it's taken quite some courage and trust to be able to voice that. And you know, like Charlotte, I apologize for not being able to spell your full name because it doesn't show up on the screen. So let me apologize with that. And if I may just briefly call you Charlotte, as she said, you can't let opportunity go by. So that's the moment when, you know, when God puts you in that moment and then trusts you with somebody's vulnerability, you know, it's that moment. And I owe a lot of that to my nanny. And if you know my life story, you know that. But it doesn't come natural to me. You know, men and women are equal in every way, but they're different. They're not the same. And for us to appreciate that in everybody, boy, girl, man, woman, is difficult. And to give an answer to something I don't have the right words for is just know you shine. Know you shine. And when you know you shine, you know, like everybody wants that shine. Everybody sees that gift. Everybody sees that talent and embraces it and can put their own ego, and then as Dr. Gabby jokingly says, put aside the lobster and embrace that shine. Allies are motivated differently, but there is always self-interest in that motivation, like everything else in life. So when you shine, everybody wants to embrace you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Dr. Majini, for seeing our shine and all the brilliance that's here that's blinding. I want to turn to two conversations around male allies that I heard in our prep conversations. I know, Charlotte, you had a very interesting perspective about the role that your husband played and certainly the difference that he made in laying the foundation. If you take a minute there, and then as well, Colleen, you also share perspective around, you know, your boss sort of pulling you along the way. I'd love to hear those two inserted into the conversation. So Dr. Charlotte.
Kim, you're a great listener. I'll be sharing my heart in my sleeve, and you're like, why don't you share the story? But yeah, I remarried, but I was a widow for a while, and my very first marriage was pretty abusive, and my self-esteem was rather low. I went back as a single mom to get my master's degree. Went out to California, UC Davis, and I met a colleague there who listened to my stories and basically said, you're better than you think you are. And so what I'm going to do is, and the next time we were at a meeting, I'm going to let you speak. And I wanted to go to law school. He said, you'll knock it out of the ballpark. You'll be a fantastic lawyer. He sold everything he had, his car, his album collection, everything he had to send me to law school, married, adopted the kids. And he always kept saying, I don't want to go into all this. It's kind of personal. I share with you, Kim, but he did that for me. Now, in doing that, he did it out of love, but he also did it because there's potential. I don't think he would have done it if he didn't think there was real potential. So I had very low self-esteem. I had very difficulty speaking in front of others. I didn't think I was worthy. And over time and over prayer, he basically invested himself in me. And that's what I try to do with others, invest myself in others. I will say this though, and I was thinking about this, Kim, it's a little different what we talked about. And I heard also, the reason why I'm changing, I'm hearing others saying, if you shine, people will see you. So I'm just switching up a little bit. There's something called the poppy syndrome. It came out of research out of Australia about women who really, really shine and blossom, and other people try to cut them off. They're intimidated by their blossoms. They're intimidated by their shine, and they will cut these women off and try to, once again, that's what happened to me, kind of make their self-esteem go away. And so what I try to tell folks is to try to put yourself into fertile ground with your allies, your mentors, your advocates, the support that you have, and get rooted in that. Because every once in a while, there'll be two types of chops. So people try to prune you because they want you to grow. But it's still a little painful to be pruned, but you've got to be pruned a little bit with advice. But there are other people who are going to try to chop your tree down. And it hurts. It will hurt. But if you're rooted in either your spiritual conviction, you're rooted with allies, you're rooted in the right place, get yourself rooted in the right place. So when people sometimes do, for the craziest reasons, people will try to put out your light. And don't focus on it. Don't get angry about it, but just say, I'm going to shine anyway. I will grow anyway. Have you ever seen somebody chop down a tree and next year you see it, it's actually all over the place. It just won't stop growing. That's what you're going to have to try to do. So I wanted not to be a downer on this, but there are times where people will see, and it used to bother me. Why would anybody want to diminish the shine of a Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, or the shine of a Bobby Kennedy, or the shine of all of these Black men who are being just cut down in the streets, and Black women with violence, the shine of all what immigrants would bring to our country? Why would they want to keep that shine from coming here? If you get fixated on that, you're not going to move forward. What you got to do is just do everything you can to let that grow and to nourish that. And especially in those, like I was, Kim, I was a chopped down tree. But sometimes if you put us in the right sunlight, with the right water, with the right people, you got to be able to spring. And actually, I look for more to help people like that. The trees that are doing just fine, I'm like, yay. I mean, like a lot of people on this panel, I'm like, wow, great trees. But what about all the other people out there who are barely breaking through the ground? Who, because of COVID-19, I mean, they just don't know how they're going to make their way. That is what I've really been committed on, is trying to love those neighbors as well as those neighbors who are standing up big and strong, and not fixating so much on why people do what they do. And I think if I look to JaTaune and the ACLU, I'm glad you're there, because we need people like you to fight and to make sure trees don't get chopped down. But when they do, when they lose their day in court, when they lose their day in front of the police, when they lose their day because of discriminatory practices in housing, lose their day in immigration, when they lose their day, they can't get into college. Just like someone helped you, Kim, we got to help those individuals, okay? And it is painful, but sometimes the best things come out of things that had been pruned and chopped. It just blossoms out even more. And I think there's probably a lot of you who are on this call who are like that, who's been chopped, been kicked, who have been cut, and all of that, and still you rise. But you only will rise if we have the allies, if we have the advocates, if we have the mentors, men and women who are willing to work with those who have been chopped, not just with those who are flourishing. And we got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do out there, but we're going to have a beautiful, beautiful harvest, I think, of justice, fairness, equality, inspiration. And I'm a business professor. Yes, innovation. All right. And capital investment. So I got to go back to my business roots. All right. Thanks.
Wonderful. And we have heard from the audience that certainly we have 45% that have been mentored by both men and women. And Colleen, can we briefly just insert again the boss carrying you along the way?
Sure. Yeah, it was interesting because, again, when I first started my career, I really didn't have any role models, didn't really know where to start. So I actually decided, since I was going into cosmetic science, that I needed to join the Society of Cosmetic Chemists. It's an organization that, it's about education and all that. So I decided to join that and be very active there. And from that, I was then asked to teach and to do other things. But I was approached by one of my bosses. He hired me because he wanted to move up. So it was a succession plan. He hired me, and as he moved up, I moved up. So again, it's a back and forth as far as identifying key talent, understanding where, what your worth is. I think, and you're right. I mean, I've also experienced where I got chopped right along the way. People would look at me and say, how do you do this? I mean, I had a very supportive husband, and, other people might not have had that type of situation. So I was able to volunteer and do a lot of stuff. And and to support my career. And, you know, I don't know if it was professional jealousy or what, but it, you know, you do end up getting, you know, chopped at the knees at times, and you're like, wait a minute, what happened here? Thought we were friends. What's this all about? So, yeah, but I think, you know, and the other key thing is when I, you know, got my job at SEBA, especially, was a woman who basically was starting a new business, new division, and her number one goal was to get me hired. So, you know, so I mean, your work speaks for itself, but you also have to know, you know, you have to be built up, and you also have to build up other people. And the interesting thing too is you were talking about different people. I actually hired someone 3 different times. One is a technician, one is a chemist, and then when I left, she took over my role there. So again, looking at different people's situations, and that it's, you know, it's giving back. It's, you know, finding where those pain points are. And I think, as I stated earlier, for the women in BSF, you know, we tried to reach out to our colleagues who need help, and we have a lot of career development. They weren't even aware that we had a lot of career development opportunities, or their managers really weren't working with them. So, you know, so I think it's important to reach out and to help support each other.
And Colleen, I'll just hang right here with you. And also Dean Williams, I have a question for you. Realizing that we're tight on time, we have 9 minutes, and I want to hit these 3 topics in 9 minutes. Ladies, can you help me? And that, Colleen, just the space of what, you know, Courageous and Compassionate Conversations had to offer for us. It really was a turn post George Floyd for us to be able to have discussions that we haven't had. And Dean, there are some ways that folks would like to get more involved, adjunct professors and the like, in these conversations. If you could prepare to just touch on that. And then JaTaune, if we have closing moments, if you could just speak to what social advocacy looks like in your space post George Floyd, that'd be great. So Colleen?
Yeah, so at BSF, I mean, we did a lot of different things in 2020, especially after George Floyd's death. We looked at, you know, what unconscious maybe bias was going on in different places, especially our women in manufacturing. And we set up these grow and tell sessions where people basically stood up and told us what was happening, you know, in the control room on a midnight shift, or at different points of their career, and different things like that. So from these career and development, we've had about, I want to say about 30 sessions at this point. It is mandatory for all managers to attend. We encourage our employees to attend as well. And basically, we're in a listening mode to understand what the needs are. And we are now addressing a lot of these issues. So as we move forward in 2021, there'll be a whole action plan around that. We have a new code of conduct about, you know, diversity and inclusion. And we also have about social media. So basically, you know, it won't be tolerated. Behaviors that are not appropriate will not be tolerated. And we're moving forward with a lot of new initiatives.
Wonderful. Dean Williams, how can students and adjunct professors get more involved?
Students and adjunct professors can get more involved by continuing to respond and participate in the town hall meetings, by bringing to the table questions and comments that come up, situations that evolve. If we are not present, we won't see them and know them. I will say that our psychology division stood strong during the George Floyd situation, because they have been doing a great job. But when we had our town hall meeting, our students expressed a very different experience with our psychology division. Our faculty were surprised. Some of them were surprised. And so we went about having additional town hall meetings, addressing microaggressions and all that is involved through guest speakers and consultants. Dr. Majini can tell you about the number of ways that we are addressing racial disparities in the education division. But again, we are not present at every situation. So when you see something, say something That's
Mhm.
critically important. We are dispersed at 5 different campuses and around the world. And we can think like the psychology faculty that we've got it nailed down, but if we don't see it, we won't know. And we can tell ourselves that we're great, but we need those on the receiving end to speak. So students and adjuncts and everyone else, see something, say something. We're open. We're open to hearing and making changes. There are committees that have been formed in different disciplines. Students can participate on those committees, and therein they have a voice. Therein they have a voice. Adjunct professors, there are no doors that are closed at GSEP, to my knowledge. The doors are open, the chain of communication is wide open, and we will hear and we will respond.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dean. And JaTaune, I
You're
know the
welcome.
social advocacy is this conversation about George Floyd is not new. It's you've been on the front line since the inception of the ACLU. What ways can our students, our faculty, get more involved with what programs you're offering, and maybe more directly show our solidarity?
Absolutely. Of course, we always like to contextualize that it didn't start with George Floyd. Jimmy Lee Jackson in 1965 really is what sparked this movement, if you will. We just recently celebrated the commemoration of Bloody Sunday. So bringing that full circle to understand the challenges of systemic racism, particularly as it relates to voter suppression, is pivotal at this moment. The ACLU, of course, ensures that we are centering racial justice in this moment. We just launched the Systemic Equality Initiative, which is a policy platform that focuses on access, that focuses on housing, and that we are really invested in HR 1, which is the For the People's Act, as well as HR 40, which is focused on reparations. So these are the initiatives that we are invested in as an organization. I do encourage you all to not only get involved with your local ACLU affiliate in California, but keep in mind aligning yourselves with the organizers that are already on the ground doing this work, even outside of the larger institution that is the ACLU, is critically important. Understanding that for example, the Black Lives Matter movement is simply a continuum of the larger civil rights movement. How can we align? How can we be active in community and ensure that we are centering the voices of impacted folks is important. And I can share that information with you all via Kim so you all can know how to get in line.
Sure, wonderful. Thank you so much, JaTaune. I'm going to advance my slides just so that there are a few things up while I'm talking. I just want to say that the Center for Global Partnerships and Learning is alive. I know there was a polling question about your knowledge of our programs. This is here on the screen. You certainly can submit your scholarship. Our Global Scholar Hours or office hours are available for students to connect. And then we also have several partnerships and certificates that are available. But what I want to offer to you is this dream team. This group of individuals has helped us really put together an incredible month-long set of activities that all of us can participate in. Just a brief hour for the next few Wednesdays. Asia, Charlotta, Dana, and Rob have all partnered to take a Wednesday with an expert and just want to make sure that we're supporting them. You can use the same link to register. Today, we'd love to hear from you. Give us your feedback, and as well for the upcoming RQ certificate with our own Dr. Michael Patterson. We want to make sure that you get plugged into those resources and contact our team. I want to give our speakers a chance to just underscore their Choose the Challenge statement. I know that for me, everybody at the table with me gets a voice, and that's my challenge. Are there any parting words from Dr. Majini, Dean Williams, and any of our panelists as we close out today?
I want to say one little shout out. It's not about us. I know we've already said this, but I think we should give some applause to Kim for pulling all of us together, for pulling together this workshop, for bringing together the speakers. I have only known you for a short amount of time. Maybe others know you, but I have been totally impressive. I just want to make sure I do a shout out that we can thank you for everything you did to pull this together. This is not easy, and you're working on a lot of different things at the same time you're trying to get your education. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the acknowledgement. And if there aren't any other closing words from our panelists, I'd love to hear from our center director or Dr. Farzin as a closeout for our time together. I know this was a beginning that you helped us strategize. So thank you both for the seeds as well as the open door for our voices to be heard.
I defer to Dr. Miramontes to close us out, but I left out two of our colleagues when I thanked everybody for their effort. Soon to be Doctors Green and Carmucci. So please apologize and Dr. Sharifi for in my enthusiasm to do the introduction, I left your contribution and your names out, and I apologize for that. And Dr. Gabby can close us out now.
All righty. So I want to thank everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, for being present and helping us amplify the voices of women. Thank you to Dean Williams and Dr. Majini for removing barriers as we continue this very important work. I would also like to acknowledge the panel, as well as the team that brought this together. We at the center strive to make a difference, to impact our communities, and to ensure that we not only create seats at the table, but also elevate women's voices in the many conversations being had at those tables. As Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. Today, we continue to raise our voices for equity and justice, and I invite you to join us on this ongoing journey. We have additional events, as Kim already shared, beginning this Wednesday and every Wednesday in the month of March to celebrate Women's History Month. Please feel free to join us for these ongoing conversations. And again, thank you all for being here, for being present, and for being engaged.
Fabulous. I'm just scrolling through so you can see Male Allyship Matters, strategic relationship building, and as well the conversation that's coming up this coming Wednesday that we're going to be led through with Asia, who's been helping us with programming today. So the next opportunity is navigating our personal and professional life with mindfulness with one of my managers at Capgemini. So glad to have Christiana Vadian joining us. So sorry to be over just 2 minutes. If you want to stick on and ask any of your questions, we'll certainly leave the chat open, and I'll remain on for the next 10 minutes. Otherwise, thank you everyone for your participation, certainly your support. To have 100 voices present means a lot to me in such short time. So again, thank you and have a great evening. Looking forward to the month.
Great job, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you.